views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, it's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is the weekly program on BronxNet Television that gives you insight into journalists, into media people, into photographers. We just bring on anybody that's involved in promoting stuff and writing about stuff in the borough of the Bronx, and you get some insight as to who they are, what they're thinking about, and what they're working on. And we've got a journalist for our second segment from City Limits who's been doing some incredible stuff about teachers and education. But right now, my buddy Marco Shalma from Round 7, nice to have you with us once again.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for having me.
And the reason we have Marco, and I mentioned that we have media people, Marco has been in the Bronx for a while now and has put out some of the best media, some of the best videos that I think we've ever had in the Bronx, and really what I have told him, what I think is the best endeavor, and that is the Bronx Night Market, which is having its last event this weekend.
For this season.
For this season.
Right,
only for this season.
Yeah. We definitely plan on coming back, bigger and better next year. But like you said, this weekend, Saturday, it's going to be the last, it's the grand finale, for this amazing season. We started this, and the first event was June 30th, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And the Bronx love the Bronx Night Market. The Bronx love food, they love community, they love local music. And this one's just going to have all of that and a little bit more.
And as you know, I have been there. I've been to everyone I could attend, and to me, it just says the Bronx. Mm-hmm. It says, and you've already mentioned why, our food, our music. We've invented all the music that's out there, and it's just been great. To me, as you know, because I've said this to you, the vibe is what it's about. Yeah. It's the first time in a general way that I've been living in the Bronx all my life, that I can define the Bronx vibe, and it's at the Bronx Night Market. I think it's why it's grown, because everybody is happy.
You know what the thing is? I'm glad you say that, because it is about the vibe more than anything else, because you can get the food some other place, you can get the merch some other place, but the combination of it all, and at the place that it is, it just clicked, when you go to Queens Night Market or when you go to Brooklyn, right? They do the same similar thing, but what you see over there is a collective of people that come in to eat or to buy stuff. What you see in the Bronx Night Market is a community. It's the biggest family that you can imagine.
Gary is applauding here, and we're rolling some of BronxNet's footage.
Thank you.
The other thing that you were frankly brilliant on is bringing in partners like me, BronxNet Television, and that helps to give it the community spirit, because it is all the groups and organizations and media that we recognize in the Bronx. I want to ask you this. I've been thinking about this. When you started it, and I know you're very optimistic and you believe in the products that you put out, did you think it was going to go that way, or were you a little nervous and you said, gee, I hope it works, and then when it played, what was your thing going in versus where you're at now?
So Amanda Celestino, the publisher of Edible Bronx, she's my partner, and her and I have been discussing this since early 2017. When we finally got to it on right before June this year, I was nervous. She says she wasn't nervous. I don't buy it. I was nervous. I kept thinking until the minute before we started, I said nobody's going to show up. And
were you wrong?
I was wrong. I was so wrong. And we had some people that work, in the borough president office, you as well. And people say, this is probably one of the top 2 or 3, events that we've ever seen in the Bronx. And as you know, it just kept getting bigger and better. And we've been working out the kinks. So it was a pleasant surprise, and we are humbled and we are blessed to have this community really supports us.
You don't do it alone. You have volunteers who just believe in it. You know what I mean? People are busy,
Absolutely.
But they really want to do it because they say, this is what we want to do.
It's our community. Like we have had volunteers, a group of volunteers that been around. Shout out to all the volunteers. They've been around for like 4 months, 5 months, and they be doing that day in, day out, behind the scenes. And amazing.
Talking about behind the scenes, I'm also curious, and then we have other items to talk about.
Yeah.
What do you do to get it set up? You have people getting there early in the day? Do you start the night before? I just think that kind of thing is interesting to know about.
I mean, Amanda and I usually show up around like 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, just to oversee things. But the way that we structure it, everybody has its role, So we have a guy that's coming in and breaking down some equipment, and we have the sound guys. And
somebody sets up the tents and all that stuff?
We help everything, and we help facilitate physically in that, But for us, it's a combination of a full month of hard work logistically into making sure that it kind of runs smoothly,
So it's Saturday night, Fordham Plaza, 5 p.m. I will be there right at 5 p.m. We're gonna
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock? Okay.
We give an extra hour just because it's the last one.
And it gets dark also.
Yep.
Okay, so get there 4 o'clock. I would recommend people get there early because the lines do get long, although nobody complains.
Nobody.
You complain on the DMV line, you complain on the...
Isn't it amazing?
Nobody complains. They're just chilling
amazing.
out.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
great. All right, so now you got a lot of things going on, and I got a nice list here. Talk about the Botanical Garden. Now, they have the Holiday Train Show, which we all know and love. We're going to be bringing a taste of the Bronx Night Market to the Holiday Train Show?
I think I want to have you write my pitches from now on, because that's exactly what it is. We are collaborating with the New York Botanical Garden and adding a tasting, a small rotating holiday pop-up, we call it, of the Bronx Night Market. So you can have every night that the train show is on, you will have a small selection, 6 to 10 different booths, 6 to 10 different vendors.
Really? Not even just 1 or 2?
No. Yeah.
Wow. At in the Hopped Conservatory?
Yeah. And we'll have a discount to a fan base to come and go see the show, and a lot of surprises. So it's going to be real fun.
That sounds fantastic. And of course, the garden will just promote their holiday train show, and you'll be in there. To me, what you have done is help define Bronx culture, which is always kind of amorphous. You've defined it, and now we're exploding it. I mean, okay, next.
Thank you.
That's okay. You know I'm enthusiastic, and I don't BS around.
I appreciate it.
That's it. The next thing is, I guess another extension is It's the Bronx.
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
Right? Let's talk about It's the Bronx. What is It's the Bronx?
Think about what the Bronx Night Market is, but imagine it if it was only geared towards music. So basically, music and art. So like you put the Bronx Night Market is mainly food, but there's also like music and art. It's the Bronx is an event that's solely designed to showcase music, art, and talent in the Bronx. It's I like to call it like America Got Talent meets the Bronx.
I was going to say the Bronx.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's a series of events for the winter. So it's gonna happen in January, February, and March, at which we're gonna get a lot of Bronx talent, whether it's like musicians, whether it's producers and DJs.
I'm waiting to hear about the spoken word.
Spoken word.
Yep.
We're gonna
Okay.
we will have artists.
That is the Bronx, boy.
And it's gonna be a massive showcase.
How are we going to find out about it?
More information coming soon, but for now you can sign up to know more at www.itsthebronx.com, and then sign up for the newsletter, so you'll be the first one to get the RSVP.
I'm going to be the first one.
Yep. The events are going to be completely free, but RSVP is required.
Required. Well, that's a good way to keep it organized in
Yeah.
some form. We've got a 30-second promo, and I'm going to introduce a promo that you created. When you came aboard in the Bronx with Blox TV and everything that you've been doing, the editing and the things that you've been putting out, as somebody who's been in media, I'm not wearing a hat, but my hat's off.
Do you
to you.
need my hat?
I can take it off now. So anyway,
Thank you.
We call this was the original sizzle for the It's the Bronx,
Yep.
right? Let's sizzle along. So it's only 30 seconds, but you'll love this. Check it out.
Remember when you told me that I was just gonna be a stripper? Look at you now, watching me.
Well, in case you were wondering, it's the Bronx, and I love where was that Cardi B soundbite from? A TV show?
This little clip, like 37 seconds, has over like 200 little pieces of different kind of information to put it together. But I gotta point out something. The little piece at the end with Cardi is so perfect because it embodies everything that we're trying to do. It's like you did not believe that we can do that. But here you are. We're gonna show you, and that's for me. It embodies the Bronx talent.
And then in the long run, she did show them. You know what I mean?
It.
It wasn't just people in the Bronx don't just talk. That's what it is. Listen, you now. So Round 7 is the company, the organization. You're the responsible for all the creativity, for all this stuff and stuff that you do. You won an award. I wasn't even aware of it. Marco said, "Can we talk about the award?" I think there's a little flyer or something, but what is the award that you won, which you deserved?
Thank you. There's a competition, so Round 7 is basically like a media and entertainment company. So I take all my crazy ideas, make them into projects.
There's the Bronx Night Market. Yeah,
right, Bronx Night Market is the Bronx, T-Cone, and other stuff that we do. You can check on our website, round7.com. But the award was for excellence in the realm of online media. So basically, this company that generated this award throughout the 5 boroughs, and 250 people submitted. Only one represented each borough, and we got chosen. We were chosen to represent the Bronx.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
was there a celebration? Is there going to be a celebration?
You know what happened? I didn't go.
You should have sent me.
They
accepting the award.
Yeah, they called me later and they said, "You won," because I didn't know if I'm going to win or not, and I was busy. And then they called, "You won."
Listen, it all doesn't matter. We'll all be there Saturday night. You'll find out more information about all this stuff. Congratulations on what was a good season and a good launch for literally the future. I think it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate
Marco
you.
Shalma, Round 7. Check them out on all the social media. It's their social media. We're all just borrowing it.
Wow.
We'll be right back with a totally different segment with a very serious journalist about some very serious Bronx issues. Don't go away.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self, and I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family? This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry. Go long, son.
it's always worth it.
Whoa!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, it's Ava, and this is Tess from Vivo's Do It Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz, and I am thrilled because I have been reading his stuff in City Limits, and maybe you have as well. Patrick Donachie is with us. He just completed a 5-part series about teachers and teacher absenteeism, and so it's my pleasure to meet and greet Patrick Donachie from City Limits.
Thank you very much. Thanks for
Nice to
having
have
me.
you with us. Let's just do a little background about you so people will know who you are. So where are you from, and how did you get into this idea of doing journalism?
Sure. Born here in New York. I was born in Staten Island, grew up there.
As I told you, we're not going to hold that against you.
I know, yeah.
Okay.
I'm running out the boroughs. But I've been doing journalism for quite a few years now, primarily dealing in education journalism. The interest kind of started when I was young. I had a mom who was a middle school science teacher in Sunset Park, so kind of started hearing all the challenges they were going through, and it just kind of stuck.
What was the germ of the idea that made you say, well, instead of following my mom's footstep to be a school teacher, that I wanted to be a journalist, as opposed to saying, hey, Mom, I'm going to get into school, you wanted to write about being in school.
Right, yeah, it was the writing. That was kind of
you
always...
love the writing.
Yeah, that's kind of just the way I sort of can make sense of stuff.
Of
and
the
then,
world.
that's the thing that seems to always work.
Okay, and so there are many people who we've interviewed who come to the Bronx to do journalism, and they're from elsewhere. But for you, learning about New York, getting a feel for New York was not a challenge because he's a New Yorker, even though he's not from the Bronx.
Right.
Okay. So, and just a little background, you do writing, you do freelance writing, you intern. How does it work with City Limits? What do people need to know?
I write with City Limits on a project-by-project basis.
I
often will work on education stories with them, including this 5-part series. I've done a series with them on summer learning losses. They call it the summer slide, kind of how classes and how teachers and students can kind of confront that. A number of other things. And then I try to write about education, primarily based in New York City, although I do some regional and national stuff as well.
And now they said they had something they wanted to put on the screen, so let's do that. But this series investigating the city, empowering communities, is let's talk about teachers and what you were writing about.
Sure.
Tell me.
Yeah,
these are, by the way, some of the photos that are in these stories.
Yeah. So we started with the idea of teachers missing from the classroom, and that can be for a variety of reasons, for a variety of different factors. So we started by looking at teacher absenteeism. Kind of use federal data to actually chart how schools and districts fared in terms of frequent teacher absenteeism, which the federal government counts as more than 10 days out of the school year. But we also looked at teacher turnover, staff shortages as well. And kind of the thing that we kept finding, kept coming back to, particularly in New York City, is that while
the Bronx, I have to say, the Bronx was underscored in this.
The Bronx, yeah, particularly, for example, in using turnover as an example, the highest school district in the city in terms of total teacher turnover rate is in the Bronx, Central Bronx, District 12. But illustrative of that, what we were finding is, though, the numbers for the total city might not necessarily look bad in comparison to the state or to the nation. What you find is that different schools and districts are being impacted in very disproportionate ways.
Listen, I'll be honest with you, both my parents were teachers, and so I guess like you, I'm always lean in that direction, and to be sympathetic toward what they go through. Is the absenteeism, you suggest, more than people being ill or with legitimate reasons? I mean, they have the flu, they're not coming to work. It's the last thing you want.
Well, I think it's definitely a confluence of factors. Primarily, those kinds of things. Obviously, in schools, you're in close contact with students and with other teachers in a high-stress environment, so that can lead to illnesses. One thing particularly you see in things like turnover and shortages is what somebody I spoke to referred to as the leaky bucket problem, where teacher turnover can lead to an unstable school environment where it's difficult for a teacher to develop curriculum over a long period of time, for teachers to communicate and partner with each other, for a school principal to feel like they've got stability.
You know, I have to tell you, it's like any company. I
Right.
mean, if BronxNet Television, we were trying to do productions, and you know, our director was never at work, or we had some other key people, and we were trying to put together shows or programs, we would have a problem.
Right,
I can
and
guarantee you, our internship program, all the other things we do at BronxNet.
Yeah, and that instability can just feed itself year to year to year, and the impact on the student can be, you know, if you have 3 to 4 years in a row of a first-year teacher who's kind of learning the ropes, that can start to have an impact over time in terms of learning outcomes.
One of the pieces was about the contract, and when Michael Mulgrew signed that agreement with the city, there was a focus on the Bronx. They decided to give raises to teachers who worked in some of our most difficult schools, et cetera. You know, the legality of that is being challenged. I mean, I get all that. You know, are these the kinds of things that are going to help encourage teachers to come to school and stay to school? I can go through, I know a lot of the history about this, about you know, the way we've recruited teachers over the years, but do you think the contract will impact this issue positively or negatively?
It's hard to say for sure as yet, but
Well,
the reason
I really
I'm,
put him right on the spot. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
the reason I'm
Just met the guy and I'm giving him a hard
I
time.
would say the reason I wonder if it's going to work is that from people I've talked to, a lot of times the salary issue is not necessarily what teachers bring up when they are talking about the issues they're having in these schools. One person I talked to said that teachers often feel like they're not able to help their students in the way that they would want to.
So there's a real frustration.
So, like,
there.
I think there's a frustration that stems from that. That being said, there might be some type of pay differential or some raise that might be able to overcome that type of reticence to stay, whether that the particular value they have here is going to be able to do that. That's where I feel uncertain about how that could look in the years to come.
You know, one of the things that cannot be denied, and there were actual numbers that came out, and off the top of my head I don't remember, but I think it was something like 10% of New York City children are homeless. Yeah. And I want, you know, all of us to think about what it would be like. Now, we're talking about teacher absenteeism, but I want us to think about what it's like to stand in front of a class and you say, well, wait a minute, the teachers can't collaborate on curriculum if they're not there. They can't, you know, they can't work in a team. They can't develop a school culture and all that. But, you know, a teacher can't do that in a classroom if the child just can't focus because he or she doesn't have a good place to live or a consistent place to do their homework, or they got to travel because they live in a shelter that may not be so pretty and they didn't get any sleep last night, and they got to travel now from Brooklyn to somewhere in the Bronx to go to school, and tomorrow they may be coming from a different place.
Exactly.
To say that I have sympathy for teachers in that circumstance and it's 10%, would really be an understatement.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we tried to look at, the idea of like turnover and shortages and absenteeism as being systemic issues that are not necessarily, that there may be a bigger fix that is needed than just like looking at the issue in isolation, like looking at absenteeism, for example, and saying like that's on the teachers. It's trying to look at it from a more systemic viewpoint, like what are the reasons that might be happening?
You know, I was part of a lengthy discussion with South Bronx Rising Together, which is a collaborative group of community groups in the Bronx, talking about their main issue was chronic absence with children and getting children to come in. And the response was the same thing that you gave me, or the dialogue was the same thing that you gave me, that we're not beating on the kids for not being there because there could be those kinds of issues, that they're ill, that they have asthma, that they may be homeless, that maybe if they're young kids, their parents don't think it's important because they're not really in 6th grade yet and it's not that important, which of course is completely incorrect. And so it's attacking the societal factors and all these other factors. So I want to talk about, because one of your pieces was about, educators, I'll give you the headline, educators linger in the misunderstood teacher reserve, which is a byproduct of school reforms. That is what your title is. So my question is one of the problems our pool of resources to get teachers is not large enough? Or do we have them, we're just not applying them right, motivating them right, and putting them in place.
Right. I think a large part of it has to do with shortages in particular subject areas. You don't necessarily have a lack of applicants into the New York State Department of Education. You know, New York State, even though it exports a lot of teachers, we produce more than enough teachers to fill the roles in
That's
DOE.
what I thought.
But
it's not like the nursing shortage, in other words.
But the problem might be we produce in excess of elementary school teachers, for example. You don't necessarily. That's why you have these perennially hard to fill subject areas like science, like math, like special education, which we talk about a little bit here with District 75. These are issues. Or I should say this is subject matter and that's just been difficult to fill for decades. And that's not just necessarily a New York problem.
And also then we have to talk about middle schools. Imagine being a middle school teacher in the Bronx. Boy, my heart and respect goes out to those people. Two things which we don't have time for. I believe that Teach for America, while it brought us volume, did not bring us the commitment because of the way it was handled of teachers, because they kind of used teaching as a way station before they got to the next place.
Right.
I think that was not a successful
endeavor. The alternative certification, which that includes a number of others, that tends to lead to higher numbers of turnover, which I guess you can imagine with Teach for America has a multi-year commitment, but people go in, make that commitment, but they don't necessarily have the idea that they are going to stay for the long term.
You know, the last thing I want to talk about in terms of teacher commitment and all that kind of thing is the whole idea of getting teachers to feel engaged in the school. And I think there's such problems with that because they see, you know what I mean? Good teachers want to do that job, but there are infrastructures that get in their way.
Right. It's just this confluence of factors and issues, stuff like what's in this series and other things as well. The societal issues that you were talking about that are outside of the purview of the school. But one thing that I think they're hoping.
Kind of wrap it up.
Sorry.
No,
just one thing I know that the city is hoping the Bronx plan does is that it actually gets to keep teachers in the school for enough time that stability.
Yeah.
About.
You know, and the other thing that I think hurt was the breaking up of the high schools, and now you had specializations.
Right.
And you may have teachers that didn't fill those specializations, and it becomes very hard to find the right teachers. Yeah. Patrick, we could talk about this stuff for more than just this segment. Patrick Donachie, read him in citylimits.org. And you got something coming up next? I hope you'll be doing
we something I'm working on right now. We're going to preschool special education.
What, preschool and special ed?
Preschool special ed.
Right. Patrick Donachie, really doing great work and important work, and thank all our friends at City Limits. And guess what that means? That's the end of the show. We're saying good night to everybody, and we'll see you next week on Bronx Talk. We've got some debates coming up, and we got another program that you're going to really enjoy about a film about the Bronx. That'll be Monday nights on our usual time slot for Bronx Talk. Good night. See you.